Hello friends, welcome to the Max Matrix Show. Today we'll talk about LCA Tejas for Malaysia. And before we start, let's clarify one thing that English is not my native language and the grammar is missing, just like Dusra Banda from Pakistan. So please avoid it. Focus on the technical stuff in which we are good at. So as we are aware that Malaysia's light combat aircraft competition is ongoing and there are multiple participants there. So the total requirement is of 18 aircraft. So basically they want a lift aircraft, that is the lead-in flight trainer, which should be in light category, just like our LCA Tejas is. So the other participants are the Korean FA-50, the Turkish TAI Hurjet, Alenia Armachi's M346 master aircraft, and also the Russian MiG-35, which is surprisingly a medium category aircraft in this competition. So the result of the competition was supposed to be out by March, which is now passed. Hence, we can say that the competition is delayed. Now, what we know so far from some reports, that 3 aircraft are now shortlisted, in which we have Korean FA-50, then India's LCA Tejas, and lastly Turkish Hurjet. So in this video we will try to explain why LCA Tejas is a better aircraft than the other two. And to do that, we'll use some technical backing and some facts so that we put out valid points that make sense. So basically how we see things, we don't consider Hurjet a competition because that aircraft doesn't exist. It's on paper, we have some dummy models, but the first flight is still pending. And from first flight to a production model, it's a long period, especially for a country which has no past experience of developing such a sophisticated aircraft. Because from first flight to production model, it's a tough period that includes some changes, then implementing those changes, or maybe going back to the drawing board. So it's too much on stake if you are planning to be on board with that project. And it doesn't make sense if you need only 18 aircraft or maybe 36 in future. So the main competition is between FA-50 and LCA Tejas. And FA-50 is a very decent aircraft. The South Koreans made it with the help of Lockheed Martin, who are experts in their field. That's why the development of FA-50 was comparatively faster than LCA Tejas, because they had experts on their side. But we should keep in mind one thing, that the FA-50 was originally designed as an advanced jet trainer from the start, which was then later converted into a lead-in fighter trainer or a light combat aircraft, whereas the LCA Tejas was designed as a fighter from the start. Both aircraft actually share a lot of things in common. When you talk about engine, they both have the same engine, that is the American GE404, very reliable engine, very fuel efficient, and it is already in service with the Malaysians on their F-18 Hornets. So finding a commonality is actually a plus for both the aircraft. The difference is LCA Tejas has the most powerful GE404 in existence. The maximum wet thrust of the GE404 used in FA-50 is 78.7 kilonewtons, whereas the IN-20 version, which is on the LCA Tejas, produces 85 kilonewtons of maximum thrust. And it actually requires that power because LCA Tejas is delta wing, so we have more drag there in comparison to FA-50. Then again, the design is an advantage and disadvantage both. The flight characteristics are different here. You have a better instantaneous turn rate on delta wings in comparison to the crop delta, which is on FA-50. So it depends on your flying style, but the delta wings are considered a better dogfighters. That's why you have the Mirage, which is a legend when it comes to dogfighting. Also, one more advantage of having a big delta wing is that you have more space to carry more fuel as the wing area is more. That's why even with smaller size, LCA Tejas has equal or slightly more combat range in comparison to the competitions. And the smaller size is actually a big advantage because the smaller you are, the smaller your radar cross section is, and the smaller you are visible on the radar. So the enemy aircraft will find it hard to locate LCA Tejas at certain ranges in comparison to the competitions if they are at the very same range. Now coming to the second commonality that the both aircraft have is the radar. So in current form, they both have Israeli ELTA ELM 2032, which is a simple but effective pulse Doppler radar. We have a quite simple system, but here is a catch. So the LCA Tejas which India is offering to Malaysia is based on the LCA Tejas Mark 1A variant, which has an AESA radar, an Indian AESA radar known as Uttam. So AESA radars are actually very much capable in comparison to the older pulse Doppler radar when it comes to the range, tracking, and operating in a jamming environment, which is now a very significant capability as the electronic warfare is becoming very common. So the radar is actually on its final testing phase and it's being currently tested from the aircraft itself. About FA-50, they can offer the AESA radar, maybe from a third source because the radar on which they are working with Thales is actually on initial stages of development. So radar on offer is a field in which they are behind LCA Tejas, and it's safe to say from the facts we have. Also, one more capability we'll talk about is air-to-air refueling. When it comes to air-to-air refueling, LCA Tejas offer probe and drogue arrangement, whereas FA-50 now is offering air-to-air refueling but with a flying boom arrangement. So why LCA Tejas has advantage here? Because the other aircraft which are in service with Royal Malaysian Air Force like the Su-30 MKM, the F-18 Hornet, the Malaysian Hawk 200 and the retired MiG-29s, they all have probe and drogue refueling. That is a commonality with LCA Tejas. So they don't have to get a completely different refueler for just one aircraft. Please note, commonality is a plus point. And moving ahead on commonality, we'll discuss more stuff. So when we talk about weapons, the weapon on offer with LCA Tejas can be Western, can be Russian, just like the aircraft which are in service with the Royal Malaysian Air Force. For short ranges, air-to-air missile, you can have an R-73 from Russia, just like what Su-30 MKM uses, or simply an ASRAAM from Britain. Or if you want to explore more, we don't have any issues, we have good relations with everyone, so we can put whatever the customer wants, but that freedom is not with FA-50. Because Lockheed Martin is involved there, they cannot touch the Russian systems. So the owning cost of LCA Tejas is going to be less because you can put on the Russian weapons or the American weapons you have in your inventory already, like the JDAMs which are operational with the F-18 Hornets can also be put on this aircraft. So this luxury you don't get with the FA-50. The options are quite limited and American only, which is not actually a big problem because you have F-18 Hornet in already your service. You can use those weapons in FA-50, but still you have more options in LCA Tejas. Also, LCA Tejas for beyond visual range uses Astra Mark 1 missile, which is an Indian missile, which is slightly better than the AIM-120 AMRAAM C5 missile, and a lot better than the R-77, which is in service with the Su-30 MKM of Royal Malaysian Air Force. Now, if they choose to get Astra Mark 1, that missile can be fitted on their Su-30 MKM-2, just like it's already in service with Su-30 MKIs of the Indian Air Force. So basically, when you buy the LCA Tejas, you get the advanced weapon package which can be fitted on your other aircraft, increasing its capability too. And that is something which is only going to come with LCA Tejas. So LCA Tejas not only have a very versatile weapon package, it is also technologically a bit more advanced aircraft than FA-50. As we have discussed, the radar which we are offering is AESA and it's in final stages of development. So we have something advanced to offer unlike the Koreans. Now coming to a very important point, that what about the Israeli systems which are on board the LCA Tejas? Although the FA-50 also have some Israeli components including the radar which is ILTA ELM 2032, but LCA Tejas also have plenty of them. That includes the helmet mounted display system, the targeting pod and the advanced weapons. So radar problem is already solved. We have the Indian version, the Uttam radar, we are offering that already. Now when it comes to helmet mounted display, we can go for the French top sight, like the one which is in service with our MiG-29K operated by Indian Navy. And for the targeting pod, we can choose the Talios pod, which is a French system, next version of Damocles pod, which is already in service with the Royal Malaysian Air Force on their Su-30 MKM. So these things are not that big of an issue. We can tailor-made as per the Malaysia's requirement. Also, HAL is already fulfilling the requirements which are asked by the Malaysian government, that is the 30% products or services should be from the Malaysian companies, for which HAL has an MOU with Bosted Heavy Industry Corporation or BHIC, which will provide the depot level maintenance if LCA Tejas is chosen. And the second important point is India agreed on the barter trade payment method which is offered by the Malaysian government, which many were not agreeing. So we have found an arrangement and we are totally okay with that. So even with all this, when everything is going in favor of LCA Tejas, if that aircraft is not chosen, then the reason can only be political, because the facts are in favor of LCA Tejas. Finally, the capability numbers of both the aircraft are on your screen. You can compare them. They are more or less similar. And we have already discussed when it comes to avionics, LCA Tejas has an upper hand. So on this note, we would end this video. I hope you understood everything. Please follow, like and subscribe. Jai Hind.